evening. It is Wednesday, October 4th, 2017. It is straight up 7 o'clock. We are going to call to order the regular meeting for the Ottawa City Commission. Could we please proceed with the roll call?
Mayor Kaler.
Present.
Commissioner Skidmore.
Present.
Commissioner Graves.
Present.
Commissioner Jorgensen.
Present.
Commissioner Crowley.
All right. Well, we are all here except for the newly married Commissioner Crowley, so we wish him well on his honeymoon. We'd like to welcome everybody that is here in the audience today and those that may be watching on other media options, Facebook or listening on the radio or however you may watch the City Commission. We always want you to be a part of the process, so know that we're all here representing you, but we can't do the best of our job unless we hear from citizens. We will begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation with Scott Dickinson, our Sheriff's Chaplain, leading. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we may have just a moment of silence before I pray, I think that would be appropriate for us. Lord, we're thankful people, and at the same time we wanted to stop and just remind ourselves that we're part of a larger community in the world and we need to take care of one another. And so we do take a moment just to remember those who were, families of those who were killed in Las Vegas and Lawrence, and people who were hurt. And Lord, we just pray that you would somehow sweep over our land and take away this element of hate and hurting one another. We thank you for our community and for those who we love and those who love us, and the fact that we can come together like this and we can pray for one another. And I do pray for our city commission, that you give them wisdom and guidance and all the things they have to do. Thank you for our city and for the beautiful place that we live and for the people who take care of us. Thank you for our sheriff and our police departments, our EMTs and our fire department, and everybody who takes care of us, those who work in the city. And Lord, may we, each of us, reach a hand out to a neighbor, to a friend, to someone in the community, and let them know we're happy to be a part of a bigger family. Lord, thank you for this evening. Just give us guidance and wisdom in all we do. We ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Dickinson. We appreciate it. That moves us on to the consent agenda, which includes minutes from the August 16, 2017 regular meeting, August 21, 2017 study session, and the August 31st special call Holiday Inn CID 2 meeting. Commissioners, we also have an opportunity when we pass our consent agenda to approve Randy Hindeleiter to our OMA board, and to approve a cereal malt beverage license for Hague Inc., which is doing business as Kick 66 of Ottawa. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. That moves us on to public comment. We always like to give individuals an opportunity to speak to us during our meeting. Is there anybody who is registered this evening? Okay, well, we will not we will not read the paragraph. However, certainly invite anybody who would like to come forward at any time and visit with the City Commission. We want to hear from you. Next, declaration. At this time, I'd like to give commissioners a chance to declare any conflict or communication that they might have had that would influence their ability to consider today's issues impartially. Commissioners? Seeing none, we will move forward. New business.
Proclamation recognizing Ottawa High School Wall of Honor Days.
Proclamation honoring the 2017 inductees. Commissioner Skidmore, help me with the first, or Commissioner Jorgensen, what'd you find out?
Well, it's either Bernice or Bernice.
Bernice?
I'm going with Bernice. Probably,
Okay,
so.
well, I'll go with Bernice too, just so we'll be the same. Bernice Bud Humphrey, Vernon M. Hay, and Scott D. Bird. Candy Campbell, who is the OHS Wall of Honor Coordinator, and Michelle Gray will accept the proclamation, which will be read by Commissioner Jorgensen.
And the proclamation reads as follows. Whereas the Renaissance program of Ottawa High School created a Wall of Honor in the spring of 1997 to recognize special graduates of Ottawa High School who graduated at least 10 years earlier. And whereas the school board of USD 290 approved this project in the spring of 1997 and thereby made the Wall of Honor the greatest recognition which Ottawa High School can bestow upon a graduate. And whereas the 2017 group of inductees includes Bernice Bud F. Humphrey, OHS class of 1928, Vernon M. Hay, OHS class of 1955, and Scott D. Bird, OHS class of 1975. And whereas these inductees will be honored at a banquet on Thursday, October 19th, 2017, and officially inducted at halftime at the Ottawa High School football game on Friday, October 20th, 2017. Now therefore, the governing body of the City of Ottawa, Kansas does hereby proclaim October 6 and 7, 2016 as Ottawa High School Wall of Honor Days, and encourages all citizens to join in honoring these three outstanding individuals who graduated from Ottawa High School. Signed this 4th day of October, 2017 by Sarah Kaler, the mayor.
Thank you. Mrs. Campbell and Ms. Gray, would you like to come up and accept? Or, okay, come on up. Here we go. Thank you. We'd love to hear from you.
Mayor Kaler, Commissioners. On behalf of the Wall of Honor Committee, myself and Madame Gray, we would like to thank you for your continued support over the last 21 years of the program. A lot of people are not aware that it's been that long. We just celebrated number 20 last year and we're looking for 20 more. We'd also like to encourage you and anybody listening this evening to nominate an alumni of Ottawa High School. Once again, as you guys had stated earlier, they have to be out of high school for at least 10 years, a graduate. And what we're looking for in a nomination is a person who has contributed to the betterment of their community and their professional area. Other than that, there is no criteria. Nomination forms can be found at the Ottawa High School website, and we would encourage anybody between now and April 15th to nominate a deserving OHS alumni. All right? We appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, that moves us on to item 13 on the agenda.
Proclamation recognizing October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Domestic Violence Awareness Month focuses attention on victims of domestic violence and their children and promotes the support of shelters and community programs that serve them. Cassie Myers, the Franklin County Program Coordinator with the Willow Domestic Violence Center, will accept the proclamation, and the proclamation will be read by Commissioner Graves.
The proclamation reads as follows. Whereas family and relationships are often counted among life's greatest blessings, and tragically, many Kansans' relationships are tarnished by violence and fear, and whereas domestic violence includes verbal, emotional, economic, sexual, and physical abuse, and all forms of abuse can carry long-range physical and mental health implications, and whereas the effects of domestic violence reach far beyond its victims and perpetrators, causing disruption in our schools, places of work and worship, and neighborhoods. And whereas, during October 2017, the Franklin County Domestic Violence Unit and other concerned agencies and groups in Franklin County sponsor and promote Domestic Violence Awareness Month to focus community-wide attention on abused women and their children, and to promote support of shelters and community programs that serve them. Now, therefore, the governing body of the City of Ottawa, Kansas, does hereby proclaim October 2017 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month and urges its citizens to speak out against sexual and domestic violence, to provide support for survivors of this heinous crime, to encourage community leaders to hold offenders accountable, and to make prevention efforts a priority by hosting events, by creating policies at school and work, and by supporting and participating in ongoing programs designed to reduce and eventually eliminate domestic violence as a societal problem. Signed this 4th day of October 2017 by our Mayor, Sarah Kaler.
Mrs. Myers, would you like to come up? Great. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, I would just like to say thank you so much to our city for recognizing that violence is not acceptable in our community. In light of the recent events over the weekend, both locally and nationally, it is more important than ever that we take a firm stand against violence in our country and in our community. An average of 24 people per minute are victims of rape, physical violence, or stalking by an intimate partner in the United States. Over the course of a year, that adds up to be more than 12 million women and men. Kansas ranks 7th in the nation for the homicide of females murdered by their intimate partner, per the annual report released by the Violence Policy Center. Domestic violence has no age, it has no race, no gender, and no financial status. What domestic violence can absolutely have is a community that takes a firm stance on the support of survivors, holding abusers accountable through advocacy, our court system, with law enforcement, our business owners, our faith community, with agencies who serve survivors, with active bystanders and community members. We can support survivors and their children. Our agency isn't the only one who can take this stance, so we've decided to challenge our community this October to participate in the No More campaign. This campaign is actually a national campaign, and it encourages communities and individuals to take a stance against domestic violence. So, we're asking you to take a picture with one of our handy-dandy little No More signs, and state on it why you feel that no more violence in your community is important to you. Post it to social media. Tag our Facebook page, which is Willow Domestic Violence Center, Franklin County, and we're going to create an album that shows that our community is taking this stance. So, once again, we really appreciate your support. We feel, and the survivors in this city feel very supported by our law enforcement. And yeah, so thank you. Any questions or anything?
Any questions?
Okay.
Please know that we will be participating at the end of our meeting, so thank you so much for bringing this to our attention, and we are happy to bring attention to this worthy cause.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. That brings us to number 14 on our agenda.
Proclamation recognizing October 8th through 14th, 2017 as Fire Prevention Week.
Since 1922, which is before I think everybody here was born, I'm pretty sure, fire departments have actively supported Fire Prevention Week, making the longest running public health and safety observation on record. This year's campaign focus is Every Second Counts, Plan 2 Ways Out. Commissioner Skidmore is going to read that proclamation for us.
I'll read the proclamation. Whereas the City of Ottawa is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting Ottawa, and whereas U.S. fire departments responded to 365,500 home fires in 2015, according to the National Fire Protection Association, and whereas U.S. home fires resulted in 2,560 civilian deaths in 2015, representing a majority, 78%, of all U.S. fire deaths. And whereas newer homes are built with lightweight materials which burn faster than older home construction. Whereas many of today's products and furnishings produce toxic gases and smoke when burned, making it impossible to see and breathe within moments. And whereas these conditions contribute to a much smaller window of time for people to escape a home fire safely, with people having as little as 1 to 2 minutes to escape from the time the smoke alarm sounds. And whereas a home fire escape plan provides the skill set and know-how to quickly and safely escape a home fire situation. And whereas a home fire escape plan includes 2 exits from every room in the home, a path to the outside from each exit, smoke alarms in all required locations, and a meeting place outside where everyone in the home will meet upon exiting. And whereas home fire escape plans should be developed by all members of the household, and whereas practicing a home fire escape plan twice a year ensures that everyone in the household knows what to do in a real fire situation. Whereas Ottawa residents are responsive to public education measures and are able to take personal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. Whereas in 2017, Fire Prevention Week theme, Every Second Counts, Plan 2 Ways Out, effectively serves to educate the public about the vital importance of developing a home fire escape plan with all members of the household and practicing it twice a year. Therefore, the governing body of the City of Ottawa does hereby proclaim the week of October 8 through 14, 2017 as Fire Prevention Week and urges all the people of Ottawa to develop a home fire escape plan with all members of the household and practice it twice a year and to participate in the many public safety activities and efforts of Ottawa's fire and emergency services during Fire Protection Week 2017, signed by our Mayor, Sarah Kaler.
Chief Matthias, would you like to accept this?
Sure.
Thank you. All right. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you, Chief.
Well, good evening, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. I just want to say thank you for recognizing Fire Prevention Week. This isn't the only week we try to prevent fires, but it does bring a special recognition to the fire service as a whole to try to get out there, educate our kids, the young people, and all citizens on the risks of fire. We have for over, I believe, 15 years, have free smoke detectors. And so we have plenty. We just got a new shipment in. I urge anyone that doesn't have a smoke detector to come down to either the Ottawa Fire Department or your fire departments in your respective areas and ask for smoke detectors at no cost. With what Commissioner Skidmore said about the building material and the way homes and buildings are built nowadays, our time is valuable. Even if you live here in Ottawa or a full-time department, citizens have to take their own steps to protect themselves and to protect their loved ones and practice your home fire drill, test your smoke detectors, and that also goes for the people that stay with you. You know, your kids have friends and family come over, so just really encourage people to practice, not just this week, but the entire year on being safe and help us to prevent fires. So, all right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That moves us on to item 15 on the agenda.
Request for approval of ordinance amending municipal code section on retail tobacco sales.
This ordinance amends Chapter 11, Section 9, Chapter 11, Article 9, Sections 11-904 and 11-905, allowing for the city-based biennial retail tobacco sales license to match the term and expiration date of the state-issued retail cigarette dealer's license. Mrs. Finch, would you like to describe this for us today?
Certainly, Mayor Kaler.
Well, you could read that over again if you wanted to. It was really fun.
I think you covered it, but we
Okay,
are
thanks.
trying to be more consistent with the way we issue our alcohol licenses to match the state issue. This will bring the same matching terms to retail tobacco.
Does this have anything that affects the cost of?
No, fees will stay the same.
Okay. Is there anything that our citizens who choose to purchase tobacco should notice as a difference by
No,
change?
this is only for those organizations selling retail tobacco.
Commissioners, do you have additional questions for Mrs. Finch? All right. Thank you, Ms. Finch. We appreciate it. Is there a motion to approve item 15?
Madam Kaler, Madam Mayor, I recommend we approve item number 15.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion among commissioners? We will proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Graves?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Mayor Kaler?
And I vote yes, motion carries. That moves us up to item 16 on the agenda.
Request for approval of resolution accepting public improvements at Sunflower Elementary School.
This resolution accepts public improvements associated with all public streets, storm drainage systems, sanitary sewer system, water line, and electrical as approved by the city's engineer, all that are located within Sunflower Elementary School, USD 290 in the city of Ottawa. I believe Mrs. Lee will briefly discuss what this has to do with it tonight.
Be glad to, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss it. Frankly, most folks have probably already seen all of this infrastructure, though maybe not the parts underground. But by accepting the infrastructure, primarily Falcon Way, which is a new street, the improvements to 19th Street, and the improvements, the changes to Eisenhower Road, the city's accepting that we will maintain them forevermore. So, excuse me, as well as any public infrastructure that was constructed with this project. The general contractor has a warranty bond to make sure that if in the course of the next year, however, there's a failure that's really to do with materials or some workmanship issue, that they'll solve that. After that, the city's responsible for those improvements. And we typically do this at the end of a project. And then the next item has to do with the plat, which we then do both of those things in concert so that we know that we've taken the proper steps procedurally to enable the maintenance of those systems as well as filing of the plat in case there's any lots that would ever need to be sold or changed hands.
Commissioners, do you have questions for Mrs. Lee? If not, I will entertain a motion if there is one.
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner?
I move to approve the resolution as described in item 16 of the agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second. I'll second that.
Is there any discussion among commissioners? If not, we will proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Graves?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Mayor Kayler?
And I vote yes, motion carries. That moves us to item 17 on our agenda.
Request for approval of resolution approving the final plat and accepting the dedication of all easements and right-of-ways at Sunflower Elementary.
This resolution authorizes and directs the mayor and the city clerk to execute this resolution for purposes of approving the final plat and accepting all utility, storm drainage, pedestrian easements, and all of its rights of way, as approved and recommended by the city engineer and approved by the planning commission, all located at Sunflower Elementary. Mrs. Lee, is there additional information on this particular item?
Just that it does say that the Planning Commission approved the final plat, which is different than, for example, the infrastructure. That's yours. The Planning Commission worked with the final plat. This does provide for the ability to even do additional work should we need to inside those easements or rights of way in the future.
Any questions for Mrs. Lee? Let's vote by acclamation on this one. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, that moves us on to item 18.
Request for approval of resolution declaring an interest in and establishing a public hearing for consideration of annexation of land at 426 and 436 Beach.
It is in the city's behalf that this is an appropriate time to annex these tracts. Mrs. Lee, I think, will be addressing this matter.
I will. These two tracts, which really represent three little remnant sections, the parcels that they're attached to have frontage on Beach Street with improved property there, so a house of some kind. These structures, or these parcels, are not included within the city limits, but are surrounded by other properties in the city limits boundaries. So they simply can't be developed without their frontage piece, and they really have to do with how the legal descriptions were done many, many years ago. As you all know, about 18 months ago or so, we underwent a review of all of our city limit boundaries and identified a number of tracts that either were small or, like in this case, these were remnants or already receiving city utilities or other city services such as road, police, fire, etc., because of something like this, where in this case they have property. This calls for a hearing so that we can have a discussion with the public, if there's people who are concerned, the property owners themselves, as well as a bunch of material and information that we had to prepare. It also requires notice be given to those property owners, which we will do if the resolution is passed, that identifies why it's important to do it. But for the public's sake, I would say that some of those things include that it would possibly be confusing whether you're in or outside the city. If you were reporting an emergency, such as a 911 call, and who's to be dispatched, and that's true for some of these subsequent ones as well, because they are possibly already receiving services and yet not paying the taxes associated with those services. So those are the kinds of things that we would discuss at that hearing time.
Commissioners, questions for Mrs. Lee? If not, I will entertain a motion if there is one.
Madam Mayor, I will
Commissioner?
say be approve item number 18 on the agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion among commissioners? If not, we will proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Graves?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Mayor Kayler?
And I vote yes, motion carries. That moves us on to item 19, pardon me.
Request for approval of resolution declaring an interest in and establishing a public hearing for consideration of annexation of land at 241 North Cherry.
It is in the city's belief that this is an appropriate time to annex this tract of land. Mrs. Lee?
This is another tract that is surrounded by the city limits, does receive some city services. This tract is a little bigger than the others. It is a 4-acre tract. It does have structures on it. And the one thing I failed to mention with the previous action is the hearings are all called for November 1st.
Any questions for Mrs. Lee?
Mrs. Lee, does this action have to be approved by the county as well?
No, these, because they are adjacent to and surrounded by, they don't go through the same action. We do have an annexation request we'll take action on later in the agenda that does have to go to the county.
Okay.
So, yes. I would say one other thing as I was thinking about all the things. All of the tracts that we're talking about for calling a hearing, all of those property owners were given the opportunity to do a consent annexation, and these that we're talking about tonight have declined that. We did have other properties that we did ask to do consent annexations, and they did agree, some of which has resulted in these tracts now being kind of surrounded.
And that hearing will take place in these room right here for
Yes,
that
this room,
purpose.
November
Okay.
1st at 7 o'clock.
During our regular meeting, okay.
Any additional questions for Mrs. Lee? If not, I will entertain a motion if there is one.
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner,
I move that we approve the item in number 19.
is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion among commissioners? All right, we will proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Graves?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Mayor Kayler?
And I vote yes, motion carries. On to item 20.
Request for approval of resolution declaring an interest in and establishing a public hearing for consideration of annexation of land at 2324 East Logan.
It is the city's belief that this is an appropriate time to annex this tract.
This is
Mrs.
the
Lee.
This is the last of the tracts that we're calling a hearing for tonight, or we're requesting that you pass a resolution calling for this hearing on November 1st. This tract is just under 7 acres and abuts Logan or K68, and it has city limits on 3 sites.
Commissioners, questions for Mrs. Lee? If not, is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'll make the motion we approve item 20.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? We will proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Graves?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Mayor Kayler?
And I vote yes, motion carries. Thank you. Next, item 21.
Request for approval of resolution for annexation of non-adjoining property at 3198 K68 Highway.
KDOT is located, the Kansas Department of Transportation is located at this address, and they have signed the consent for annexation. Mrs. Lee.
Yes. We were contacted by the area engineer who wanted to find out about annexing into the city limits, and the purpose for that is that they would like to connect to our water system. This is what we call an island annexation. This property is on the east side of I-35. It is also abutting Logan, or K-68. Out there, it's K-68. And they have signed a consent annexation indicating that they are asking to be annexed. This does not require a hearing by you. It does, however, require action by the county commission. So your resolution is asking them to complete a series of findings indicating that they believe it's proper and approved by them for you to then act subsequently. So after they take action, then we would bring it back for further action by you.
And this request, Mrs. Lee, is primarily for utility, or for water?
Water connection.
Okay.
It's my understanding they already are connected to our sanitary sewer.
Okay.
Additional questions for Mrs. Lee? If there is a motion on the table, I would entertain that at this time.
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner?
I move to approve the request, the resolution as described on item 21.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the request for approval of for resolution for annexation on the non-adjoining property at 3198 K68. Is there any discussion among commissioners? If not, we will proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Graves?
Yes.
Mayor Kaler?
And I vote yes. Motion carries. That moves us on to a report by the city manager.
Two things, Commissioners. A reminder that this weekend is Rush the Rails, and one of the activities tomorrow, weather permitting, is a dance on Main Street
Tomorrow?
out here.
Friday.
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow?
Oh,
When
no,
it- Well, it could be my tomorrow. Maybe Mrs. Lee would like to tell you.
Since I made myself a whole series of notes, and I have a little more revisions in there, it's been my privilege really to work with a group of people that are trying to put together a first-time event. And I wouldn't say any event is simple, but a first time has all these things that nobody has the answer to, and we just have to make it up as we go along. And so the city, and within the city, that would include the fire department, the police department, the public works department, the Ottawa Memorial Auditorium, as well as the community development department, along with the tourism director, the Main Street director, chamber director, and the bike club. We have kind of put this together. The Rush the Rails event is really from Osawatomie to Council Grove. But that ride, which is about 96 miles, and run, we felt like here we had a great opportunity to showcase Ottawa for those that might be coming to participate or their family might be participating, as well as kind of start a new event here for our citizens. And so Friday night, weather permitting, there would be a street dance on Main Street between 1st and 2nd Street. So all of Main would be closed, and that's sponsored by State Farm in O-Town. We'll know tomorrow. We're going to kind of make a decision at that point about the weather and whether it's going to be appropriate to have sound system and equipment out if it looks like it's, as it does right now, that it's going to rain. But I've been assured by some of the members of the committee that it won't rain, so we'll go with that. Saturday morning, primarily between 8 and noon, is when we expect the riders and runners to be coming through Ottawa. They will be using the Flint Hills Nature Trail. This is an event to celebrate the opening of that trail. And we will have some streets closed. First Street from Hickory to Walnut is where we primarily expect to have citizens sit. They can bring their chairs. And we'll have vendors. We're going to have some family events, bike rodeo, the playground in a box, some inflatable. We're going to hand out cowbells to ring as people come through. We're also going to have Walnut Street closed from 1st to 2nd. And periodically, Main Street will be closed, and we're going to have some advance warning of that. And that really has to do with as they're crossing Main Street, just like we have for other bikes or run events in the community. So we're pleased that we have some vendors who've signed up. We're also going to have a bike repair station at the new bike repair demonstration at the new station, which is where the two trails intersect at First and Walnut. It will be set up by then. This concrete's in. We're excited about that because that's a new thing too, so that folks that maybe need to change a tire or inflate a flat or put their chain back on. So we'd invite the community particularly to come down between 8 and noon to participate, bring their kids, and have some fun with those kinds of things, as well as just let folks that are participating in this event know what a fun community we are. Come buy something from one of the food vendors or someone else, or just come downtown and hang out. What a great opportunity we have, and we're counting on that great weather. So thank you. Any questions?
No. Okay, thank you. Additional items from our city manager? Okay. That moves us on to a report by the city commissioners. Commissioner Graves.
I just wanted to make a comment about Fire Safety Week. My kids and I live in an apartment on Main Street, and recently our fire alarm went off in the middle of the night, and we hadn't experienced that before, but it was very, very, very loud in that old building, and but it didn't wake up my children. They just slept completely through the whole alarm, and it went off for some time. So I just would like to emphasize that maybe in your plan, work in time to go in and wake up your children, because that alarm might not. So.
Additional items?
Nope, that's it.
Commissioner Skidmore.
Well, we've all been touched by the events of Las Vegas, and it's just something that we never think would ever happen. They just seem to getting worse and worse. But what's encouraging about the whole thing to me is just to see how strangers are helping strangers and saving the lives of strangers. People they don't even know. And it reminds me a little bit about after the Boston Marathon bombing, Boston received such an outpouring of love and support. And somebody there said, bad people are rare, but good people are everywhere. And I think it's so true with what we witnessed at this event as well. So our prayers and thoughts go up to the victims that are still in the hospitals trying to survive those wounds, and we want to certainly keep those people in our thoughts and prayers.
Thank you. Commissioner Jorgensen.
I have no report.
Okay. That moves us on to report by the mayor. I wanted to extend a little bit about the fire detection, fire prevention proclamation that we made, and I don't know that I've said this a whole lot, but the one thing that is important is check your batteries and your smoke detectors too. I know that our fire chief is coming this way, so I'm sure that he wants to tell us something more that I'm missing, but go ahead.
Change your batteries every time the time changes, the spring and fall. Also, but the smoke detectors are only good for 10 years. With technology advancement and some of the ways they make smoke detectors, they're saying 10 years is the life expectancy of a smoke detector. So all of them should have a date on the back. Take them off, look at the date. If they're over 10 years old, come down and get some. Ours are just strictly battery operated. There are ones that are 110 and battery backup. And to Commissioner Graves' comment, that is true across the board. Little folks do not wake up most of the time to smoke detector activation. They're doing some studies on you program your own voice into a smoke detector, and that's getting a better result than the blaring noise of a smoke detector. How someone could sleep through that, I'm not sure. So, but
when our kids were little, we had those. We actually had those recording ones that we did the 30-second recording,
right.
And thank God we never had to use them. However, they are a good thing to have.
Yeah.
Another thing too, isn't it good to test them with real smoke sometimes? I mean, I do that every time I cook, but that's not by design.
That will run your battery down, but
whenever she leaves town.
But I'd heard that use a match or something, test it with real smoke instead of the button. Have you?
Well, there are times when you should do that. You could take it outside and do that.
Okay.
If you detach it, even if it's 110, take it outside, run a match or smoke through it, and have it activate. Don't do it inside your home. But as an inspection side of things, we use artificial smoke and we test them that way.
It's a good
So-
idea. Good. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Just on a personal note, when my husband and I were married, we had been married about 6 months, and we woke up, we lived in Minneapolis, and we woke up to our apartment completely on fire, and we lost everything. And so as a couple, we are hyper vigilant about making sure that our our smoke detectors have their batteries in them. We've had the fire department over to change our smoke detector in one of our ceilings that is too high for us to even have to even use a ladder. So please, you never know, your life will change in a second. And we certainly didn't go to sleep thinking that we would wake up with our apartment engulfed in flames. And it can happen to anybody. So it's super important to make sure that is taken care of. That is it. Wish the Rush to Rails all the best this weekend. I think that is it. I'm going to read our announcements, and then we're going to need to excuse us into executive session for 10 minutes, attorney-client privilege. Okay, so announcements. October 9th, study session. October 16th, study session, 4 p.m. Mondays, they're always Mondays at 4 p.m. right here at City Hall. We always invite you to be here. If you can't be here but you're sitting at your desk, you can certainly go on Facebook Live and watch it, or you can watch it afterwards. We have our regular meeting on the 18th, which is at 9:30 a.m. here at City Hall, and we have our joint city, county, and school USD 290 meeting at 12 p.m. at the school board office later that afternoon. Our study session has been canceled for the 23rd, and that completes our announcements for tonight. We do need an executive session for a period of 10 minutes for attorney-client privilege. There will be no action after that is completed.
Madam Mayor?
Would someone like to make that motion? Yes.
I move that we go into an executive session with our city attorney and city manager present, starting at 7:50 and come out at 8 o'clock.
That's for the purpose of
Attorney-client.
Yes.
So noted.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.